Hello? Hello, everyone? Hello? Hi, hi, hi. Hello, everyone. Benvenuti. Please take a seat. Please take a seat and welcome to the first stakeholder event of Project Interlink. I'm very happy to be here in Rome with all our project partners and in particular with the Ministry of Economy and Finance that helped us organize this important event. So since we are already a few minutes late, let me start by introducing the first speaker that will frame the Project Interlink in the context of the European effort in the e-government domain. He's Andrea Rotondo, Project Advisor in the Research Executive Agency and also the Project Officer of Interlink. Let me check.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We cannot see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. So I can switch off the camera.
Yes, no, we can see you. Hi, Andrea. Perfect. Thank you.
Hi, hello, everyone. I want just to thank you for inviting me. And first of all, I want to apologize because also DG Connect was invited, but unfortunately, Mr. Gatwick was sick and so I could not attend. But in case you have a question for DG Connect, you can send it to me. I will send it to him, and when he will feel better, he will reply to by email. And as already Matteo mentioned, I'm Andrea Rotondo. I've been the project advisor for Interlink and all the related cluster. And what I want to say is only that we had and still have a great expectation for Interlink, considering what was the call. I was in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, was the idea is the call was expect a solution for opening up and connecting public administration data service with impact for business and citizen. So as I'm not really the expert here, as you know, we had a first review after 1 year, and we called 2 experts, external expert to review the project. And I just took some notes because what they say was that there is, from the result perspective, the current main scientific and technological achievement is the groundwork for the new government model for co-production based on deep dive literature review. The work plan is very well in line and all major objectives and milestones are fulfilled. And so what I want to say is, yeah, of course, the interlinker remain the main innovation outputs. So from our side, we are very satisfied on what happened so far, and we are going to meet them again with the same expert next year to have the confirmation. The fact that I'm only here, I'm the only one here, doesn't mean that DG Connect is not interested, because they are always sending email on update or checking the deliverables together with us. And I want to wish you a nice, fruitful meeting. Now it's weird because I see my face, so it's like that I'm talking with myself. And
Thank you.
So I give.
Thank you, Andrea. We are very happy to have you here. And I think that we will show you promising results also today with our first round of Interlink pilot. Thank you. And let me welcome my director, Marco Pistore is the director of the Digital Society Research Center of Fondazione Bruno Kessler. Yes.
I try to speak from there. Let's see if it works. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So, well, welcome, good afternoon, welcome to all the experts, the stakeholders, and of course the project partners. My role here is to welcome you all to this meeting on behalf of Fondazione Bruno Kessler, which is the coordinating institution for the Interlink project. Fondazione Bruno Kessler is a research institute in Trento, in the north of Italy. We have a rather long history, more than 60 years of research in different topics, but in particular in the area of ICT, with a very specific mission. Of course, we need to do research. We are a research institution. We also do frontier research, but our mission is to link the research we do with concrete impacts in the society, in the economy, in the market. That is, we do what we call mission-oriented research. And in particular, as director of the Digital Society Center, my mission is digital society. We know that digital technology is changing our society, all aspects of our life. We believe that digital technology is fundamental to ensure that the future society will be more sustainable, more robust, more resilient. But this does not come for free, and indeed our goal is to study and create the conditions to make it, to ensure that this positive impact materializes. So we do research, we develop innovative digital solutions, we bring them into the society, and we struggle to make it sure that they do help. So in this picture, you understand that the area where Interlink works, that is digital transformation of the public sector, is of key importance. I believe that, in particular in Europe, we really need to do whatever we can to ensure that the public administration, that the public body understands and adopts innovative digital solutions, since they are a key driver of innovation. And I'm very happy that in this project we have public administrations that work with you, and in particular the Ministry of Economics and Finance in Italy. So I believe they are here since they also believe in this goal. I started working in the digital transformation for public administration field more than 15 years ago. At that time, in 2007, we were speaking about e-government, about interoperability. Then the focus moved along the years. We were struggling to get open data, open APIs, to run hackathons and so. But I have to say that I like very much the focus that I see more and more relevant in the last years. That is the problem of democratization. I hear more and more focus on data democratization, on digital asset democratization. Here we speak about democratizing the co-production process. And this is very important, since democratization is key to ensure that the digital tools, that the digital innovations that we do really have the maximum positive effect that they can reach in the digital society, in the public administration. So here, in the subtitle, we read about legal and technological barriers, but I believe that the barriers are much broader. For instance, we need to have the right skills to ensure that people know how to manage the digital skills that we create. We need to remove organizational barriers in addition to legal barriers and technical barriers. So this is really a key problem. Democracy comes with a cost, that is to create the conditions so that all people can participate. So this is what we need to achieve for the digital transformation of the public administration and of the society. And I'm very happy to be here and, attend to this workshop where I believe these topics will be discussed. So thank you for coming, and I wish you a very productive and enjoyable afternoon here in Rome or virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you. This project would not make much sense without our public administration partner. In particular, I'm happy to introduce Giuseppe Parise. He's the Director General of the Directorate of Information System and Innovation of the Ministry of Economy and Finance in Italy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and everybody, welcome in Rome. I'm a pleasure to see you and to note a large attendance. I would like to personally thank you for the interest in this project. I want to thank Bruno Kessler Foundation and the organizers of this event. As Director of Information and Technology of the Ministry of Economy and Finance, we are constantly looking at opportunities to join research and innovation projects to support development for new service and citizen. In the last year, we are taking part and coordinate some project funded of the Commission or European Commission. This is a strategic way to collaborate and to create service with administration, public sector, universities, and research center. I'm sure you agree with me that it's crucial for our institution to collaborate and sharing knowledge and experiences. So why Interlink? Interlink is a project that proposes an innovative approach to co-design of services and products for public administration and citizen and business. But I believe this is a new approach and an opportunity not only for us of the MEF, but for the Italian and European public administration. Our contribution to the project is focused on testing Interlink solution with concrete use case in strategic planning, with an high level of applicability and replicability along the public sector. That represents how we are strongly convinced that the participation of citizens is an added value for quality and for all aspects of our daily work. Not only those related to the IT domain. So, in addition, this approach of transparency of public action strengthens the trust of citizens on the public administration, and it also fits perfectly with our vision of public administration to deliver G2G services. Before leaving the floor, please let me thank all the 40 colleagues of the Italian public administration that are concretely involved in the project with us in activity of Interlink. Thank you all once again for being here. Thank you.
Thank you again to the director. So let's start with the first presentation, that is what's Project Interlink. I'll try to catch the time. Okay. So let's give you a brief overview of Project Interlink. As I said, I'm the head of project management of Fondazione Bruno Kessler, but I'm also the coordinator of this project. So I saw it from the beginning, from its infancy. So why Interlink? What is the challenge? And the challenge was that we had to address was that governance was being transformed by this new approach to delivering public services, which allow for the involvement of citizens and various other actors. So government is not, let's say, this monolithic entity that is alone, but needs to coordinate, to work together with other entities. And we wanted to assess and support this transformation based on an open collaboration and innovation platform supported by ICT, Information and Communication Technology. So, what was the current situation? The idea of the project stems from two movements, let's say. The first is that there is there was and there is a lot of effort spent by European Union and member states in developing regulations, procedure for interoperability, reuse of software. You all know EIDAS, for example. However, sometimes these top-down approaches often fail to involve important stakeholders like citizens or third sector organizations, thus creating outcomes that are technically sound, but sometimes lack transparency and trust. On the other end of the scale, we have a lot of examples of what we call do-it-yourself government. So citizens that organize themselves to provide services to other citizens, informal services sometimes. There was a whole movement in Europe called the Collective Awareness Platform Initiative. However, these approaches suffer from other breaking limitations like sustainability, accountability, and legitimacy. So the idea of the project is, what if we combine the strength of these two approaches to overcome their individual limitation? And this is Interlink. So the goal is that we want to demonstrate to public administration that co-production is beneficial, feasible, and doable in practice. So it's a very practical project where we really want to demonstrate in practical use case that this is doable. How? By providing what we call interlinkers, that are building blocks to perform this co-production. So what are these, let's say, what are the project objectives? So we want to develop a new collaborative governance model based on this partnership between public administration, citizens, and companies, to provide this set of interlinkers that are these digital enablers that will standardize the basic functionalities needed to co-produce a service. We have a framework and an operational platform, a collaboration platform that leverages also on mobile communication to facilitate co-production. We, of course, needed to identify the legal framework for the co-creation and to evaluate and assess the impact of the Interlink solution in these three proof-of-concept use cases, with the Ministry of Economy and Finance in Italy, the Ministry of Regional Development in Latvia, and the city of Zaragoza in Spain. What are interlinkers? This, let's say, abstract concept, but it's very practical. So these building blocks used for co-production of services. What are they? For example, they can be tools for idea crowdsourcing, for survey, for team management. These are all software part, document sharing, file management, but they are also knowledge, like guidelines on how to perform stakeholder analysis, templates for stakeholder engagement, for survey for probable refinement, and so on. But we have also interlinkers as service building block. What are the basic building block needed to co-produce a service? Maybe we need registration and authentication component. We need a collaborative editor for public service description. We need an incentives and reward component. We will see that reward is a big issue, a big problem when involving citizens. And also knowledge, so guidelines, for example, for GDPR, for data protection, information sheet, consent form, all this kind of what is needed to co-produce a service. What is our conceptual approach? So what will we and what we are producing in this project? We have a collaborative environment that you see here that allow to define the co-production approaches involving private entities, citizen, and public administration. We want to build these public civic communities of interest around specific public service and to provision tools for deployment, activation, and execution of a service. And then we want, of course, run and monitoring this adopted process. So this is all what we will do and what we are doing in this project. This is our consortium. We are 10 partners from 6 countries. I want to mention, of course, FBK is the coordinator, but we have 3 universities, the Usto Radboud University and UC Leuven, 2 SME, CNS and 3 technology, 1 large company that is DEDA, 2 national public administration that I cited, MEF and the Ministry of Regional Development in Latvia, and the city of Zaragoza. So before going to the next, to the panel, let me give some elements of discussion. So we are talking about barriers to co-production and co-delivery. So what are the barriers? What are the barriers that we try to address in this project? So first, at the beginning of the project, we carried out an extensive literature review on co-production to identify what are the main barriers that prevent public administration companies and citizens from exploiting the full potential of ICT to co-produce and co-deliver services. And these are some of the most important. The first is shortage of financial resources, of course, but skills are very important. Sometimes we lack skilled workforce, both in the citizen and in the public in the civil servant side. Lack of skilled workforce able to coordinate and execute these activities. Lack of planning for the day-to-day ICT use. One big issue is the legal regulation. These are especially important for citizen associations that really they have not the elements to understand what are the legal complexities of such services, especially in Italy, where we are particularly expert on this. Sometimes we have a negative attitude toward ICT by citizen, privacy concern. You remember, I remember what happened with the Immuni app, for example, and sometimes even in government stuff. And sometimes, on the other hand, we have often this informal, experimental nature of Moscow production initiative, and it's difficult to, let's say, to put them in a rigid framework. And let me conclude by saying this other discussion point, that when we look at this literature focuses mainly on ICT-related driver, but also barrier for engagement. So I work on an ICT research center, but sometimes information and communication technology can also act as a barrier and not a driver. And we don't want that. We want a technology that helps people, not that create a digital divide with maybe elderly not able to use these new tools. There is little research, unfortunately, about the ideal setting to enable this digital co-production process. And several factors can enable or limit the co-production. Demographics, as I said, older versus younger generation, but also culture, trust in government, and social dynamics. But most important of all, co-production is often closely linked with participation. You cannot carry on co-production without participation from citizens. And long-term participation is very difficult to achieve. How can we achieve it? So, by looking at the rewards. Of course, the rewards can be intrinsic or extrinsic, can be material or immaterial, but in most cases, citizens will engage when the perceived reward outweighs the perceived cost. We all remember what happened with the cashback app, for example, with respect to the Immuni app, how many people signed and got their speed. But this is just one example of extrinsic reward, the most, let's say, trivial, that is money. But reward can also be intrinsic, like the perception of your help to society, the alignment with your own ethical framework. But also can be the perception of the benefit that the service can give yourself and the people you care about. This is also what we are trying to investigate in this project. So let me close this And let me introduce the moderator of this panel discussion that is Innovative Experiences in Co-Creating Public Services. The moderator, Giovanna Galasso, Associated Partner of Interlink Consulting, and also part of the advisory board of the Interlink project. So we are very happy to have you here, Giovanna, and please, I'll let you introduce our other speakers. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Matteo. Thanks a lot, Matteo. I would like to really thank you to have me here as a moderator. I would also like to ask the other panelists to come here and on the stage or together so that we can have this nice discussion. So a very warm welcome to Francesco Paurici, General Director Agenzia per l'Italia Digitale, Agil. Monica Gabrielli, Digital Transformation Lead at SOGEI. Then we have also online, I hope, Daniel Saras Funes is Director of the Zaragoza City of Knowledge Foundation, Spain. Marco Maria Pedrazzo, Head of Design at the Italian Department of Digital Transformation. Thank you. Before starting asking questions to our panelists, I would like to recall some data that I think are useful to start our discussion. And I think these data are very, very related to the barriers that Matteo listed. We know that, all know that this topic of the co-design of public services, the design of services that are based on user needs are now on many documents, on many policy documents on the European Commission. We could recall the Berlin Declaration, the EU Declaration on European Digital Rights and Principle. We know that we need to engage citizens in policy making process and help them to design online government services. But if we have a look at the data included in the European in the government benchmarking published every year from the European Commission, it's interesting to see that in the last 2 or 3 release of the report, we have interesting data on the state of the art of the usage of the co-designed public services. The latest government benchmarking highlight that only half, so 54% of administration provide information about how they design digital services and explain what processes, panels, expert groups, and stakeholders are involved. Italy's score is below the European average, only 39% of administration. We have here also our colleague from Spain. Spain is a bit better because they are above average, 69%, but not consistent throughout all the 9 life events. There are some, of course, countries that scores better, like Ireland, Malta, Netherlands. They also are characterized by a higher usage of e-government services. But of course, it means that there is still lots to be done in this area. Another, I think, aspect that data which is important. Why? Because it's not only a matter of co-design public services as a tool. It's really important to develop inclusive government services. And now, at the moment, government website should be open to people regardless of their visual, hearing, motoric, or cognitive ability. However, only 16% of public sector websites comply with the selection of 8 web accessibility criteria in Europe as average. So a lot still to be done, but here we have a very interesting experience that our colleagues could present in terms of innovative experience and barrier in the implementation of co-creation approach. First of all, I would like to leave the floor to Francesco Paurici. Francesco is the General Director of the Agency for Digital Italy. He has been also at the position of Head of Group IT and Infrastructure at Docomo Digital, and previously he was also Global Technology Director of Buongiorno, a very important IT company, so has both public and private experience. As Agid does this regulatory role, Agid issued guidelines, released guidelines that reveal a clear direction toward user centricity in the strategic planning of public administration online service. Could you please tell us something about your experience?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me thank you, the Ministry of Economy and Finance, for having invited me to this event. I'm very pleased to see innovative examples of building great public services, so thank you for that. Going back to your question, as a general statement, the Agency for Digital Italy, in its primary role, sets the rules with the aim to promote the development of a digital society where services put citizens at the center. At least this is the ambition and the mission. More specifically, in the area of usability and accessibility of the public services, I think that the agency does some important stuff. Let me highlight some of them. First of all, as you said, the agency is responsible for issues technical rules and guidelines in this, also in this particular matter. And the agency also supports public administration to implement and follow the rules. The agency is strongly committed also to disseminate the culture of accessibility here, both in the public and private sector, and it is also responsible for carrying out the monitoring of sites and apps for the whole public system. So, considering all these activities, the agency, in a way, can promote and can contribute to contribute for the improvement of digital public services user experience. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for this overview concerning the technical rules that we have, and also this important project. It's not only a matter of, let's say, defining rules, but also concerning this user-centric approach, co-design, etc., but also in trying to invest on accessibility. So, you know, at least we see that Italy is not particularly well placed, but there are the rules and the regulation in place. Now I would introduce Monica Gabrielli. She's the head of strategy and new business development within SOGEI, the IT enterprise controlled by the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance, delivering services for the ministry itself, the fiscal agencies, and many other administrations. Mrs. Gabrieli has a very long experience in SOGEI, but also she has also worked for some 13 years at the Italian Central Procurement Authority and also for an IT private providers. She can really present us a very important experience that they are developing within SOGEI, and I would say Matteo said one of the barriers is that there is a lack of skills, but in SOGEI the interesting experience is that they are building up a pool of people able with the right skills to carry out co-design projects.
Thank you, Giovanna. Good afternoon. Thank you for the question that gave me the opportunity to tell our experience. At SOGEI, 3 years ago, we embedded the customer experience management in the software development lifecycle. In order to improve customer experience and include the user-centered methodology, some phases of companies' production process were changed with particular reference to the service design and the service implementation. Which we integrated the activity for involving engagement the user and all stakeholders from the outset of process. 3 moments can be identified in the user-centered process: the envisioning for co-creation of the service, co-design for co-design and testing the solution, and the phase, the execution. The envisioning phase envisages a series of activities aimed at analyzing a context and identifying user needs. And so, from insight, vision, and for creation of the hypothesis and elaboration of future scenarios with design thinking methodology. So, our process of development service was entirely modified. Where, with the realization of our frame and prototype, we progressively entered to the same phase, in which co-testing activities represent a strategic moment. Feedback from potential user is collected and prototypes are refined, they evolve towards the execution phase and involve the creation of mock-up. And so creation content, detailed visual interactive prototype, and once defined lead to realization of a product on which supervision and quality assurance are carried out. And so, for us, accessibility principle and control are applied at every stage to ensure inclusive and usable solution for all. Practically, we have transformed the obligation to check accessibility into process for inclusive design. Design public services accessible to all people is for us a challenge and a responsibility for designers and developers. Within the company, there are 25 designers, service designer, UX designer, and about 100 technical experts who carry out accessibility check and support the publication of declaration of conformity for both a website and everything that is not web, such as document, mobile application, and video. The main barriers in the dissemination of this methodology is a low level of competence in service design, and our person non-sufficient to supply our customer.
Monica, it's interesting to see how both of you have highlighted the topic of accessibility and linked it to the co-design of public services, because obviously if you start working in a co-design approach in focusing on user needs, at the end we will have some services that will be also more accessible for all. So the data probably will improve in the future, both the data concerning the co-design in this ranking and the accessibility if we work in this way. I would now, SOGEI work, as we said, mainly with the central public administrations. The Italian Digital Agency is the national level. Now we have, I introduced Daniel Saras Funes, is the Urban Innovation Planner, and since the end of 2020 is the director of the Zaragoza City of Knowledge Foundation. He has published a lot on this topic of co-creation of public services, and he also is chair of Data Working Group of Eurocities. Daniel co-design il flourishing a lot at regional and local level, where really social and economic impacts are also more evident. What are the main highlights from co-creation experience of city of Zaragoza? Pros and cons, and results achieved and barriers.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giovanna. Thank you for the organization. Thank you for the Interlink partners, and thank you for the host, the Minister of Finance in Italy. We're really sorry not to be there in Rome, not to be sharing with you on stage this fantastic experience. But you know, these are difficult times for everyone, so we had to stay here. But anyway, I want to highlight that I'm here representing not only the City of Knowledge Foundation, which are linked third parties in Interlink, but also the City of Zaragoza, Zaragoza City Hall, which we work hand in hand in a smart city project, and also in co-design and co-creation of new public services. Now, having said that, we've been working on co-design since a decade ago, I would say, and we started. We have the advantage of being a city, and that advantage has to relates to proximity. We are an institution compared to a national government, compared to the European Commission, which is very close to citizens. Citizens come to our premises, enter the premises because they are public premises, complain or participate in our workshops. So that's a big advantage. And with this advantage, we can build places that are, somebody said, place matters. Place matters a lot in co-creation, and that is some of the highlights that we want to share. Co-designing city services in mobility, in public markets, in recreation or social services is difficult, or more difficult, without having a proper place to hold the sessions, to have a face-to-face experience with the citizens. I was remembering when I was preparing this presentation, an example, very old example, the Hull House in Chicago. Hull House in Chicago at the end of the 19th century was a place that where working class people could go to train themselves, to learn how to write, how to read, and also they were trained in manual professions. And little by little, this institution ended up by influencing very interesting regulatory reforms. They ended up making public policies. The reason I say this is because we had a big boost in how we did things when we created our modern or contemporary type of the Hull House, which is Utopia Center for Arts and Technology. This is not the only one that there are around. In many cities, you can find these urban labs, innovation hubs, civic labs. So my first advice to national and European institutions or to universities is to lean on these kind of places and to go to them, participate in them, and connect with citizens in them. Previous speakers were talking about a common barrier, which is inclusion, accessibility. This is also our case. It's true that not all citizens can connect to technology. Technology can be a barrier, and it's a pity that we miss interesting idea from very engaged and very experienced citizens by not having the means or the will to access technology. We can't afford to miss these good ideas building the cities of the future. Think, for instance, in the silver economy. We need the elderly to help us in many abilities, many skills that the new generations are simply being lost. I'm talking about mechanics and many things, how to repair something. They know a lot. So we need to build technological APIs, application programming interfaces, but we need also to build human APIs. We need to have these people, these facilitators that close the gap between technology and the ideas of the people. So that would be the second barrier and an important lesson for us. And the third lesson, and with this I would finish this my first round. We were feeling that we needed a new contract with citizens that participated in our co-creation and co-design activities. We were having some experiences of disappointment. For example, in hackathons, we also celebrated ideathons, which is just you come with your ideas and you share with the public, and we try to implement it together with the rewards, with prizes, etc. So we set our eyes on the Linux example, and you know, in Linux, few people use Linux. That's true, and fewer people fix bugs that may appear in Linux, and even fewer contribute to the kernel, to the nucleus of Linux. But the ones that contribute, they are not rewarded with money. They are rewarded with being recognized as active contributors. So they escalate a little bit this ladder, these stairs of technology, from being passive to being more active to really kernel developers. So I think that we need a new kind of social innovation contract with this. We're not interested in having a lot of people contributing or co-design. We're more interested in the quality of the few people that come to our premises to help us co-design the city. And we are really interested in being able to make them feel rewarded, to make them feel more fulfilled by having contributed to the future of the city.
Thank you, Daniel, for this very, insightful talk, because of course you work a lot on the ground with and have a very practical experience, and it really shows how it is important to exchange experiences also cross-border in this kind of exercise. Now, finally, we have Marco Maria Pedrazzo, the head of design of the Italian Department of Digital Transformation, where he coordinates the team of designers who work on the major public administration digitalization project. He has a particularly interesting background, and I think that's why it's very difficult to find this kind of resources, because carry out a co-design activity is something not so easy. You need to have a different type of expertise, because he's a background in architecture and engineering, graduated at Polytechnic of Turin, master at Polimi, technology and innovation, diploma at Alta Scuola Politecnica, America, management and strategy, the New School University of Design in New York, and this allowed him to carry out a very interesting projects in IoT, international, Expo Pavilion, Smart City, and so on and so forth. Marco, could you give us an overview of both the technical guidelines, but also, most of all, the practical manual that you developed, that was developed by the Dipartimento per la Trasformazione Digitale to support the public administration to design and implement user-centric public services? Of course, all the lessons learned from your experience.
I'll give it a try. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you for having me here. Especially thank you to the Ministry of Economy and Finance for the organizing this event. Let's start by defining what do we have as guidelines. We have the luck of having here Director Faurici, which let's say put a stamp on the guidelines that his team crafted, and we had the luck of taking part to that process and contribute. Before the guidelines that were emanated this July, I think, we didn't have laws regarding co-design. We had indications, meaning they were not properly enforceable. You cannot keep public administration accountable for running design and co-design processes. Plus, they had another big issue, which was to mix standards, guidelines, directions, overviews, together with the practicalities and the technical application of design and co-design. And so we ran this process to make sure to have guidelines that set process standard that could last in the years and not having the necessity of being constantly updated. And at the same time, making sure that of the guidelines, of the standard, we could provide tools to public administration to make sure that they were able to run this process. So practically speaking, what is not operating manual. The guidelines are not telling you what you should practically do in your everyday projects, especially because a 50,000 euro project cannot withstand the same rules of like 50 million euros projects in digital services. So they contain a series of topics like cybersecurity, privacy, and accessibility that are not framed within the guideline, but needs to be taken into account. So you need to link the existing regulation to a design regulation to make sure that those aspects are taken into account by design. Because accessibility, if done by design, it's practical, it's cheap, and it's effective. If done at the end of the process, it's a nightmare. Cybersecurity, the same. Privacy, the same. And then it's the first time in which we have a law in Italy that states you should involve the user within the research of every single digital services. You should prototype and test with them. You should provide people the possibility to give you feedback. And that's mandated by law. So, of course, this is very high-level indication, but then it also states within this guideline that you should favor indication given by Designers Italy. So I'm pulling off the hat of the Digital Transformation Department and pulling on the service owner of Designers Italia, which is a joint project run together with Agid, where we do, the goal of the project is to foster the culture of design within the public sector. But practically speaking, we run a community. We orchestrate a community. It's now 18,000 people in between administrators and technicals and vendors and ICT people. Last year, I think we did something like 15 to 20 events. And most of all, we create tools. We can give indication, but if we don't support public administration, there's no way that a 3-people municipality can run a full-scale design process. So we provide them with kits if they want to embark on a co-design process, such as how do you run a survey, how do you handle privacy while doing so, or I don't know, how do you prototype, how do you do a card sorting exercise with citizens. We provide them a design system, so the sets of Lego bricks with which you can build digital services, and you can arrange it as you need. This is more on the implementation side, and then we provide templates for those municipalities who are large in numbers but small in scale, like small municipalities or a small school. We provide them full templates for digital services. So that's more or less the way in which we jointly decide to frame both the project and the strategic decision on the guidelines.
Thank you, Marco. Now we have understood how the regulation, the technical guidelines are becoming, I would say, reality and have been implementing. I suppose there is Francesco, still a lot to be done. What are the future activity of your administration? Which are, in your opinion, the enabling conditions to enhance the co-creation of public services in Italy?
Okay, thank you. Well, about the project, I think that we have a quite interesting roadmap. Let me quickly highlight a couple of projects that are in a delivery phase. First of all, we are close to deliver the new version of Web Analytics Italy that is basically a platform that allows public administration to track how the user surfs the web pages, and so it's a useful tool to understand the behavior of the users. Then the agency is responsible for a specific measure of the recovery plan that is fully dedicated to accessibility, and for accessibility is a huge project because we are talking about 90 million sites project from a financial perspective, and one of the deliverables is related to build a dashboard platform that give public administration to see data, aggregate data, and understand the level of accessibility of their sites, and on one side, and on the other side, having a whole piece of information to improve their sites. And then finally, let me mention a program that is not strictly related to accessibility and usability of the services. That is the Single Digital Project. That is a huge project that a cross-border level that give, in my view, a great opportunity to public administration to improve the services, because we are talking about a bunch of services, more or less more than 500 services, that must be comply with the once only principle. So there is the opportunity to improve these services, keeping a constant eye to accessibility and usability. Then about enabling factor, now the second part of the question, going back to the question, the second part is enabling factors for co-creation methodologies. Well, let me be optimistic. I think that today we talk, of course, about barriers that in a way we need to cope with. Of course, lack of money, lack of skill, that skill gap that we need to fill. Of course, also cultural problems. But I think that we have the ingredients now to succeed also in this field in the public services, because we have now clear guidelines, we have templates, we have a piece of software that help public administration to do things, and I think that we start having the cultural ground to succeed and to improve the services. Of course, it's always difficult. This is true also in the private sector to challenge the status quo. This is normal. But I think that now we are in the right track, and I think that the future looks to be much better than in the past. Marco, whether you know whether we share this long journey, and so I'm very positive, I think.
Thank you, Francesco, because I think you have really put together both, I think, at the national, all three at the national level. You have been working to really set the basis, have this enabling basis to really deploy these approaches in the public sector. And also I like the fact that you raised the topic of the digital single gateway, because we are not to, these services, many services are cross-border, and we need to, think not in a national, local view, but we need to really co-design services that can be cross-border, not only from Italian citizens, but also for all the people. Monica, you are really working a lot and implementing with the whole team the models and the approaches and testing the approaches that you presented. What could be the future models and perspective in the field of public service design?
So Jay carried out an experimental project called Future eGov, to build and test and formalize a research framework based on service design and design future. Design future in practice for the design of digital public services, focusing on the logic of citizen moments of life. This methodology that overcomes the siloed logic of PI administration and enables interoperability between entities for end-to-end service delivery. A new paradigm that includes the use of service design tools and method, as indicated by AGID, by Digital Transformation Department, for the design of citizen-centered digital public services and transformative approach. Then Kentic has from self-referential public administration to a human public administration, from a passive public administration to a proactive public administration, from a fragmented public administration to a community of public administration. A methodology was developed to improve communication and sharing of information service on public administration by analyzing and mapping citizen life moments. A design approach based on generating possible scenarios for PI of future was used while structuring replicable methodological practice for building new service. The principal elements of this framework are the life moments, the community of services, the digital ecosystem, and future vision and shared practice. In our project, we analyze the service provided in one life moment. The life moment the start a business is a complex service, public service. And so, in this case, Start Business, we were mapped 11 entities involved, each with their own silo system. The critical issue that emerged, we found fragmentation of experience, lack of information and support, low level of autonomy, and no communicating services. We were able to count on the service community composed of two main players: the revenue agency through SOGEI and Infocamere, the company that manages the company register. With just two entities, it was possible co-design and co-production the entire life moment. How was this possible? The two entities hold the data to support the entire flow.
So this is a very interesting example, really very advanced and again cross-border, because if we speak about a startup or a business, it's not really can be only national, but cross-border. So I think we have been testing here very advanced approach. We have really the basis. Then we have the implementation part. In fact, let's go back to Daniel, that has been already working a lot in the implementation at local level. And again, it's interesting to listen to you concerning the technical and the legal barriers in the co-creation, but most of all, are you tackling it? And also, what is also could be important, because from your experience, is you have been working at the local level, but also the interoperability among levels. It's interesting, and the coordination. How do you manage the synergies with other government levels in Spain? Daniel, maybe we have some.
Sorry, no, I had forgotten to unmute. So.
Okay, it's that we don't see you, but we can listen.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was saying that in Spain, I don't know the situation in Italy, but in Spain, the Spanish government doesn't speak directly to cities. Okay, they speak to proxies, which are the regions, the regional governments, what we call in Spain the autonomous communities. Okay, but they're like a regional administration. So we see each other many times. We see each other at the European levels in Brussels sometimes, and by saying that, I mean that we work with the Spanish government, with Spanish agencies, sometimes in European projects. For example, we are working now with the main postal service in Spain, which is Correos, in a big European project around designing the new smart logistic platform of the city of Zaragoza. And if I stick to this example, which I think it's interesting, I would highlight. You were asking about the legal, and you were asking about the technical barriers. Okay, so one thing we want to do in this smart logistic platform, which is called Senator, with the Spanish Postal Service, is to create a new kind of logistic hubs in the city. Now, the technical thing that we want to highlight here is, okay, we will do co-creation and co-design activities with the retailers of the city. But what we want to introduce here is data. The notion of being able to put data into the co-design and the co-creation process. You know, there has always to be a mixture when you do city design, city making, between objectivity and subjectivity. Normally is the subjectivity that wins. But I think that now we can put data on the table, and also, for example, when we are going to redesign mobility around a public marketplace, going for a more green mobility, but at the same time allowing retailers to be able to ship their garments or their goods to anywhere in the city. We're solving a problem, and it's very useful to put data on the table so we can establish at the beginning a common grounds about what the problem is. Okay, but then I think it's very interesting that we plan projects not in a cascade way, but in an agile way, with making incremental changes, being iterative, and for this, data is always very important, because every time you do a change, you change a service. You can, if you have the proper dashboard, data dashboard, or you have the means to gather this data, you can put the results of these changes on the table and share it with your constituents, with your stakeholders, and understand together what are the effects of the new services. So data is very important, and for this to happen, for being able to put data on this co-creation process, we need to build what is called data sharing platforms, because the city no longer holds all the data needed to run the city. There is very important data coming from telcos, from banks, from public companies that are not strictly the municipality, and we need to build this data sharing system. So I don't want to extend my discourse here, but if I would choose one technical and legal barrier, I would choose data.
Thank you, Daniel. I agree with you. This is a very, very important topic we could discuss for hours. Thanks a lot for your experience. Finally, let's go back to the designers. And Marco, what is, you have carried out this very interesting experience. What are the lessons learned? What is the way forward for you? From your point of view, for the public sector to further enhance the co-creation in the public sector?
I mean, I think the challenges are quite a lot, but the main one is that, especially in Italy, design is still considered to be a luxury. I don't know if it comes from our heritage in product design and fashion, or I don't know why, but it really needs to become a commodity. Like it's a no-brainer. It's de-risking projects. It's lowering costs over the medium and long term. It's making sure that everything you are putting in place is actually serving the purposes of what they were meant to be in the beginning. So in order to do that, we need to change the perspective, and as all the cultural changes, it takes time. You need to be right for an extended period of time in order to be heard, and I mean that's how I think people, generally speaking, works. So we need to change perspective from a government that's actually there to control the territory, from actually a series of services that need to welcome people within the country. And in order to do that, we can't fantasize on changing institution. We need to change people one by one. I mean, we need to find the actors within the different vendors and authorities and entities that are struggling on the same struggle. And I think the more I spend time in the public sector, the more I see them. So the trend is definitely positive. In order to do that, I think we should clarify some basic values, and I think that the guidelines are going in that direction. But probably that there's more there. I'm thinking about open source and open design and open community. I'm thinking about the responsibility of design for the public sector and the transparency that needs to come with it. And sometimes also in terms of processes, there's still, maybe it's connected to the same fact of designing as a luxury. We still see design coming at the end of a process to be used as sort of lipstick on a pig, which, I mean, we know it doesn't work. So those are the main thing that needs to happen, and the main things that we are working to make happen through community work and through making sure that we stay available and we still hear and engage with the people who are working with our kits and tools. I've heard from Matteo at the beginning, like the challenge of skill. That's true. Specifically in some sector, we generally are not. For example, we are not educating designers to work on public sector we're not educating developers to work on accessibility. Like the training is not there yet. And therefore we're going to have problems in the near future, I think, not as a country, but as Europe. I mean, generally speaking, there are not as many capabilities as we need them to be in place for the public sector. And yeah, I think that's it. Also, one last comment. It's very difficult for public entities to procure and to hire those capabilities. It's really difficult because they are difficult to frame, and they're difficult. I understand the difficulties of, hiring a cybersecurity expert that in most of the cases doesn't hold a degree, but it was, hacking FBI servers since 14 years old. I mean, that's difficult to do in the public sector, and I understand the reason why. But we need to be clear on the fact that institution needs innovators, and innovators needs to have the patience of taking care of the public sector, because it's difficult for both, but one without the other, cannot really work in modern days.
Thank you, Marco, for your insight. I think, this has been a very, very interesting session. What I think all the participants can say is that I think we have understood that really now in Italy there is really the basis. There are the regulation, there is the expertise. Testing has been done there are also this project, international project, where it's possible also to share experience. Now we really need to, let's say, to make it happen, this co-design approach needs to become a commodity, as Marco said. I want to thank you, the speakers, for this interesting session, and also I would also like for the interesting input, and also say for maintaining the time because we are on time, right? So thanks a lot, and I leave the floor back to...
Thank you. Thank you to Giovanna and to all our speakers. They speak some very interesting points. They also stayed within their time limits. That is a great achievement in this kind of panels. So thank you again, and let me introduce the final part of our workshop, and that is the part that explain and shows the result of Interlink first pilot phase. Let me welcome to the floor Professor Diego López de Piña, full professor in the University of Deusto in Spain, that will introduce the theme.
Okay, so good afternoon, and thank you for inviting or allowing us to present the results of the project. I would like also to introduce and to welcome to the stage to Roberta Lotti from MEF, so that if she doesn't mind, you can already take a seat there, and also to Matis Beigurs from VARAM, from the Ministry of Regional Development in Latvia. So we have here, as you can see, two governments, the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance and the Latvian Regional Development Ministry, and also online we still have our colleague Daniel Sarasa, who represents, in this case, the Zaragoza city. So basically I'm going to give a very quick overview of what we have achieved so far in the project, and then my colleagues will have the opportunity to more concretely explain what has been done in these three different public administrations. So, first of all, we really want to embrace co-production, and we want to distinguish from previous experiences going beyond co-design. We believe that engagement, participation of a wide range of stakeholders is paramount. So we want to put a strong focus on that, and we want actually to go beyond toy artifacts that are produced out of the co-creation process. So we are concerned about the sustainability of the outcomes of these collaborative multi-stakeholder processes. So we want to push forward this model, which is actually flexible, extensible in our solution. And to put it forward, we also bring up front a digital environment that is supposed to support us in an inclusive manner, trying to remove the usual technical barriers and also the access to a wide range of resources that may be used in order to create a wide plethora of public services. So again, very important that we want to go beyond co-design. We want to at least consider co-delivery. We didn't manage to reach that far in the co-delivery in the first stage, but all our energy is going to be driven in the second iteration towards that. So we provide an environment that allows us to carry out a step-by-step execution of a co-production process, and as my colleague Matteo already anticipated, we have empowered or populated that environment with a wide range of enablers. So, with whom and why do we want to test co-production? So, we adopt a typical quadruple helix approach. So, we want to engage citizens, businesses, public authorities, research organizations that together work into sustainable solutions that are widely adopted. And different stakeholders obtain distinct benefits. Some of them are not material, but there are opportunities for some of them. You know, you can have the power or the capability to influence in the design of new services. The government can also somehow offload part of the design and development to other agents. There might be SMEs that are interested to enter into this market and to have opportunities to develop part of the solutions. So we believe that to make sustainable co-production, we need to valorize the contributions that the different stakeholders, the different teams, the different members of the teams of co-producers may have. So, once we have all these ingredients, we basically launch the execution of the project. There are 2 iterations. I'm going to describe the first one. As you can see, it expands from April 2022 until September 2022. So, what did we offer to the pilot sites? We basically offer them a customized digital environment, personalized to their language, and also populated with some concrete, specific interlinkers or enablers. So you can see here the portal for Latvia, and here is the portal for Zaragoza. And we basically populated this environment. To be noticed, interestingly, we created some co-production schemas or models. There is no suit that can fit every single distinct co-production process. So we have to create different schemas that may accommodate better to guide the co-production of different endeavors. And this is the look and feel of this catalog, where we have actually imported many resources that are widely available on the internet. Design Italy also has a wide plethora of co-design templates, canvases that we have imported also into this environment. We can search for it. Okay, so now, what do we actually want to prove? What is the research question, main research question behind the project? We believe it is to demonstrate whether the co-production model and its supporting tools, this digital environment, this catalog, can enhance the quality, quantity, and reuse of public services. Particularly, we want to focus on the quantity, on the reusability. How do we produce things that are not only used by our public administration, but that they can be leveraged by others? So we want to give place to high-quality products from a technical standpoint. This is what the product-based quality dimension refers to. We want end users to meet their expectations regarding those solutions they have access to. They have to be effective, they have to be efficient, useful, flexible. And also, we are creating not any kind of new applications or artifacts. They are artifacts for public service. So we have to basically guarantee inclusiveness, guarantee privacy protection, ensure that we foster democratic values, all these aspects that are specific to our public solutions. So for this, we developed this strategy to pilot this environment, to construct, to co-produce these new public services at each of the pilot sites. So basically, we departed for what we call an alpha release of the solution, which worked but had many flaws. So first of all, we had to go through an extensive testing and continuous enhancement process where we invited all the stakeholders of the consortium and even external ones, but this was a controlled experimentation. And we applied diverse methodologies like focus groups. We also prepared the training materials. We established dialogues between people that know about governance models and the technical people. And eventually, we delivered what we call this beta release of the solution, when for 4 months we were able to run the co-produced services with the support of the pilots. And we also tried to explore how those taking part in a co-production process make use of this digital environment and the supporting enablers. And finally, we tried to measure whether we were achieving higher quality in the resulting solutions. So, probably you don't see much, but this is like the early version of the solution, and after carrying out the first pre-piloting phase, we changed things, we added new views. Originally, there was only a guidance and there was a possibility to create teams. Then we realized that it is very important to offer a time view of the projects, to also tackle things like permissions regarding the different contributions that you can be doing in a co-production project. Okay, and at this stage we were already ready to try to quantify the quality associated to the co-production processes. So this has been our first attempt of how to measure it. So we came up with this formula. We thought that if you want to enhance the quality of something co-produced, you should ensure user-based quality, you should ensure value-based quality, high satisfaction, trust, and acceptance. Those are the dimensions that we consider could be critical to have a higher chance of delivering highly adopted solutions. And as you can see there, in the decomposition of this equation, we can see that user-based quality can be understood as the average of effectiveness, efficiency, usefulness, ease of use, and flexibility, and value-based quality, the average of inclusiveness, security, privacy, democratic values, and web-variant criteria. Well, anyhow, what we got is some promising or hopeful results. We are aware that in the first iteration we haven't managed to achieve the provision of an environment that will deliver high quality co-production of public services, but it looks like we obtained a 3.79 out of 5, which gives us hope to keep trying and to keep improving. Okay, so at the end, what did we do? Well, produce a release, one of this solution, which is absolutely open source, and we again added some new views and some new features to the solution. Okay, so I already spoke to you what we did, but now let's get into actual, more concrete examples. And now I would like to pass the floor to my colleague Roberta. I don't know if you want to start. Yeah, you have
yes, I have one slide. Okay, thank you, Diego. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm really pleased to be here and to tell you about the role of the Directorate of Information Systems and Innovation of the Italian Ministry of Economy and Finance within the Interlink project. So, in the last year, we have been focused on services based on collaboration and co-production to foster the synergies among administration and other stakeholders to meet the needs and the needs and the requirement and the expectation of the end users. So the Interlink project fits perfectly with our approach and with our activities because, as already said, is trying to develop a solution to make easier the collaboration and the co-design among public administration. So it's something that we are following and that we are really interested about the solution. Our ministry takes part in this project as use case owner. That means that we are working to give requirements to the consortium, to the partners that are involved in the development of the solution, the Interlink solution, but also on experimenting and testing the solutions as well. So, what we choose for our use case is to design a participatory strategic planning module. In brief, PSPM is easier to say. Why this choice? For two main reasons. First of all, because when we talk about participation, it's something strictly related to the transparency of the public sector, public administration activities and actions, and also because strategic planning is a common function that exists in every organization, and so this module could be also the occasion to design something that could be replicated and implemented in other public administration. So, in the last year, we have been working in the design of the blueprint of the PSPM. To do this, we have involved about 30 colleagues from different units of our ministry. In addition, we have engaged about 40 civil servants among 15 other public administrations, so a total of 70 persons involved in this pilot. And that has been a great challenge, but also a key experience to promote the culture of collaboration between different public administration. And let me thank all the colleagues that are working with us. Some of them are here today, so thank you again for the collaboration and the hard work we are doing. All the participants, all the 70 participants were involved in workshop using the Interlink platform, testing all the solution, the platform, and testing the usability of the platform, its tools. At the end of each activity, we gather insights, feedback, and it was just to experiment at which level the proposed solution was. We gather also insights and feedback from directors and Director General, in particular about the strategic planning in public administration within the public sector, to make the most from their experience and knowledge to implement our use case. So I said the first part of our activities was focused on the first deliverable, that was the blueprint. The blueprint is a design of the overall module. It's a design, it's define the step of the processes and the action of the actors involved in the participatory strategic planning. But our job is not finished, because we aim in the next year, the last year of the project, we aim to move from the blueprint to a full mock-up to test the user experience, to concretely test the user experience. And we aim to involve the same participants and probably also some new ones. To conclude, I would like to highlight another aspect of our project, because we spent some effort to create also a solid methodological framework. Our use case has been recognized as a co-business model that can bring personal, social, institutional, and financial benefits. I would like to give you some example. A person who is involved in a collaborative project would benefit in order to learning by doing. It's referring something now, we have a lack of competencies, but this is probably the best way, no, to learn. Or the benefits could be for all the society, with new kind of services not possible before, or cost saving for already improved services. Another aspect is the institutional benefit. It's very important to have something that can help the institution to switch from a command and control mechanism to a proposed guide and support approach. As I said, these are the benefits, no, that identified in our methodological framework, but let me say that are also the reasons that we believe are fundamental to push the public administrations to adopt a co-production approach. And I think that, of course, what need to the public sector, to the public administration, is also to be supported by technical and methodological solution, as Interlink project is trying to develop and is now presenting to you. Thank you. I leave the floor to my colleague, Mathis.
So, hi everybody, my name is Mathis Veigurs and I am project manager at the Latvian Ministry of Environmental Protection and Regional Development. It's not in the name, so that usually people don't know that our ministry also deals with the digital transformation policy in Latvia. Since we are a small and flexible country, there are a lot of things under each single ministry usually. And what we did, we looked at how we can improve digital services in general, not maybe one concrete service, but all together, since we are also engaged in defining guidelines both for other institutions and for municipalities on how to create them, how to make them more coherent, what to include in their descriptions. And our colleagues from policy departments who are involved in actual policy planning informed us that usually there are problems with some descriptions that users find them very hard to understand, complicated to address when you want to fill out some form for a digital service. So there's also no coherence, especially we see it in the process of unification of services, since a lot of municipalities in Latvia provide the same kind of services to people. A lot of them have also created their own separate services just for the municipality. What we are doing now is we are unifying them under one umbrella service, putting them on national platform, so the user can choose which municipality, from which municipality he or she wants to get the service, and then there's generic description and it's taken to that service. However, of course, in practice, unification is very messy. All the descriptions are very different. Each service sometimes in different municipality entails different things. So that's a lot of confusion. Also, one of our stakeholders in this use case is state customer service centers. Those are small places, let's say in villages where there are no state institutions, where you can actually access computer, access one or two employees who can consult you on how to perform a digital service if you don't have means at home or you don't know how. So also there are digital agents. Those are trained people who are not necessarily public servants, but for example librarians, because people come to libraries to access national platform, perform services. So they are trained people who can consult them. So we have information from these stakeholders on the ground that yes, people actually have struggle. They have electronic identification. They may even have computer at home, but once they open the service, they see there's a lot of mess in the description. They better go to the library, ask the librarian who knows how to deal with the service, and maybe fill out the form for them. So gathering all this information, we decided that we will test this solution by inviting these stakeholders, such as digital agents and customer service center employees who have expertise with problems, and also gather interested citizens from municipalities who can give some insights what is wrong, in their opinion, with some problematic services in each municipality. So our goal was basically to test this model of co-production, co-design, co-working together with citizens, because we haven't done it before, especially in the ministry, which considering the level is quite far from the simple citizen. That's why with our engagement activities we targeted specific municipalities, specific places where digital agents are, such as libraries and digital centers, because some cities run digital centers who are engaged in similar projects like this, so they have a network of people, so they can mobilize some interested people. And that's how we gathered our so-called beta testers, so people who engaged in this use case using the platform which was developed. And briefly about the results, we visited 10 municipalities over the summer and provided 11 workshops together with citizens and PA members in order to try to highlight the problems in existing services, service descriptions, and these suggestions were provided for in total 4 unifiable services, which are not yet unified, so they are still separate in those municipalities, and all the results of suggestions of indicated problems in these descriptions were transferred to digital policy departments who are working with these issues. So basically, when you imagine a person in the ministry shaping a policy, of course, for them it's basically impossible to go directly to citizens and to speak, but using digital tool and agents on the ground, such as libraries and digital agents and digital centers, it's the citizens become more closer to the PA, and also citizens can feel that they have been listened to. And for the next iteration, we are planning to have more focused approach on these service description refinements, and probably to come up with some more user-friendly template for services in general, based on citizen suggestions, what they want to see and what kind of information is useful for them. And just to give some insights about participation, which are very similar to what was talked about before. Citizens really want to be, for them to participate, they want to be motivated, they want to be rewarded, and we tried to do that, and it worked pretty well. And also, of course, there should be willingness from the policy planners, policy shapers, because if there's no willingness on top level, then it's hard to motivate citizens if they don't feel that they want to be heard. And of course also motivation on the ground level. If there are good administrators, good process facilitators, such as people from digital centers, then it works really well. When we have both, then it's perfect. So thank you. And I will give the floor now to my colleague from Spain.
Thank you. So now we pass the floor to Daniel, who remotely is going to talk to us about the Zaragoza use case.
Hello again. Thank you, Diego. Thank you, my colleagues from Latvia and Italy. Okay, so I'm speaking here also on behalf to present the project, the work done by our project team, Ana Jimenez, Carlos Lopez, Elena Giner from the municipality, from the city hall, Laura Montañez, Raquel Pobar, and Guillermo Malón, that are working in the foundation. So a team of 7 people working in this project in different tasks to try to build what we call the digital layer of Utopia Center for Arts and Technology. I don't know if you can see the slides because I'm just seeing my face. Okay, good. So as Diego explained, we've gone through the first iteration. The project has 2 iterations, and we wanted to share some reflections about what we learned in this first more than a half of the project already. So basically, Matteo at the beginning explained what the interlinkers were about. We're using in this iteration 2 interlinkers, basically. The first one is a digital collaborative environment to help us in co-creation, co-production, co-delivery, and hopefully co-business. And then we are also working on an internal interlinker, which is going to help us enhance our productivity and to improve the way we work together. Let me explain a little bit what Utopia. I think Diego, there is a previous slide here. No, there is not a previous slide. No, okay, sorry for that. All right. So okay. So in what we intend to do, our goal in Utopia, in this project, is to establish or to help with a co-governance system. This is a very important thing for us. So in order to do this, we're going to do it in 2 steps. First thing, we need to work internally. Because Utopia Center for Arts and Technology is a center which is led by mainly 4 different institutions. There is the municipality, there is the City of Knowledge Foundation, but there is also the university. And there are also private institutions. And the reason why the university is here, is in Utopia, is because they do a lot of citizen science. And for making citizen science, you need scientists and you need citizens. And remember when we talked in the previous panel about the advantages of proximity. So citizens are keener to collaborate on what means for them, and what it means for them is their city, and so this match between the university and the citizens is being done here in Utopia. So what we want to achieve here, and something that we learned, is that we need to put technological tools to enhance this co-production process, but these technological tools need to adapt to the processes, which are social processes, which are flexible and which are liquid by nature. So we need to put technology in the hands of citizens, which is not the main character of the play, which is not the main goal, which is always serving and servicing people. Another characteristic of social innovation is that needs to be iterative and needs to be incremental. Okay, so this is another takeaway from this iteration. We need to change things one by one, little by little, in order to be able to properly measure the effects. Reason number one. And reason number two, we cannot change the world in a day. We are accustomed to do things without these tools. There are public servants, there are people from very different institutions, and you cannot change their ways of working very suddenly. You need to do it little by little, and you need to have soft skills, and you need to have a lot of flexibility doing this. And we were talking about measuring innovation because, you know, and it is something the European Union wants. European Union wants KPIs, wants performance indicator. Technical people need to measure quantitative things. But measuring innovation is a very subtle issue because we have a problem here. Innovation cannot be predicted. And this, by nature, innovation is a risky business. So it copes in a very difficult way with indicators. So we need to establish ways to measure qualitative things of innovation using quantitative KPIs. And that has been a challenge, but I think that as in the previous objectives, flexibility, iteration, and qualitative measuring, we are achieving these goals, and we are happy with this. And after the fourth takeaway is about the human dimension, which already stated its importance in the previous panel. Technology should be for servicing this human application program and interface. This what we call in cultural terms, or in social terms, facilitators. So we need to put the technology to ease the facilitator's life and work. And they need to choose from a wide and very powerful technological menu. They need to choose their ingredients to build their own recipe. An important thing to mention, Utopia Center for Arts and Technology, it's a new innovation hub in the city. We don't have a lot of assignments, or we are not responsible for any vertical department in the city. So we need to create our own space in the city. And to create our own space in the city, we need to create communities. And this is why this creation of communities is so important for us, because we are not a center which has a lot of resources. We're big, but we don't have a lot of resources. So we're really interested in climbing up this ladder from co-creation to co-production to co-delivery and hopefully to co-business. Co-business is very important for us because if you imagine this situation where funding is limited, and this is the difficult part of innovation, we need to create sustainable innovation models, sustainable services with the help of other stakeholders to co-deliver the services with us, with the university, with the city hall. But this effort could not be sustained in time if there is not an acceptable business model for all the stakeholders involved in co-delivery. So this is why this stage of co-business is also a very important target for us. Next slide, please.
I don't know. Yeah. I think we
okay. I think we've missed. Okay, we've missed some content. Okay, so now we wanted to highlight some of the results or some of the things that we've done in Interlink. Okay, you see here in the pictures the process Habitat Utopia is how to live Utopia, because places need to be living. So Interlink, this is an open process with all the stakeholders in Utopia, and it's about establishing governance rules as you would do in a community of apartments. Okay, and we are being able to do this process thanks to the interlinkers provided by the Interlink project. And now the future for us of Interlink in the second iteration, I'm just going to give a glimpse. We are going to try to make a citizen science experiment involving many citizens and being able also to use Interlink to replicate these experiments throughout different schools in the city. So it would be easy for every school in the city to create like an off-the-shelf experiment, citizen science experiment on air quality. And I think that we're going to be able to do this thanks to the tools, very refined, that Interlink has provided.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so I want to thank very much the passionate pilot owners of Interlink that they have described pretty well how, with their very different nature, they have been able to adopt the co-production approach in their organizations. And if I may, I would like to close showing just quickly some of the reflections after the first iteration. We open a post-iteration execution reflection period and process, and we realize that obviously we've done some things not that well. So it is important, first of all, to consider who are the types of users that are behind a co-producers team. So we recognize that there should be some people organizing, administering the process. There will be the standard contributors, and there might be others that can act as observers in this process. Secondly, it is hard to maintain the motivation to take part in a co-production process. It is easy somehow to engage people for a one-day event, for an ideation, co-ideation experience. It is much harder to ask them to construct, to build something, and also to think how they can deploy it, how can they maintain it, how can they exploit it. So we also realize that these models to guide co-production, they can be a bit complicated. And it is not totally intuitive to choose what schema or approach would be more suitable depending on the nature of my public administration or the community, the group of stakeholders taking part. And we realized that what we have to do is to leverage on the preliminary experiences of our pilot owners in the project, and we had to publish their experiences, their co-production processes. We had to document them and make them also appealing, attractive, so that other public administration, other co-producer teams may take them as an example, may clone, update, extend them. So another key part is to valorize what the different members of a team contribute in a big co-production process. So we need to give place to a new generation of exploitation agreements that where co-production, this new thing of co-production, is made viable somehow. We are aware that we are providing some already useful features in the collaborative environment that have enabled 3 pilots very different to change the way they design new services for public administrations, as MEF has been done for a long run, and in this case they have tried to co-design it in a more holistic manner, involving many different civil servants and representatives. So we are aware that there is an importance to include activity tracking, for instance. Interlinkers, we should find more useful interlinkers, particularly to boost this difficult part of making services that matter, that survive the creation process. And finally, an area that we want to work is how to also monetize somehow the contributions that different members of a team perform, so that we can also think about co-ownership. No? How can we distribute the ownership of the resulting co-produced solutions? So this is all that we had to say. I don't know if we finish here, or people want to ask something, whatever. We finish here, Matteo is indicating me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you, Roberta, Matisse, and Danielle. We are a few minutes late, so unfortunately we don't have much time for questions. But I would like to thank all of you for being here, for participating to this workshop, for listening to our experience. I would like to thank especially the Ministry of Economy and Finance for helping setting up these very nice events, and all Interlink partners that contributed to this project. And there will be a networking cocktail reception just outside here. You are all invited. I hope we can talk, and let's say you can ask questions there, and we can explain better what we did. Thank you again to all of you. Thanks.